Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 4 replays in the brand new Tier 7 Tech Tree Chinese rocket booster heavy tank, the BZ-58. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the BZ-58, it is the start of this rocket boosted Chinese heavy tank line. What's it like as a tank? Well, it's a pretty decent Tier 7 heavy tank. Hull down, the turret can bounce you a decent amount as long as you're not facing the higher pen Tier 8s and Tier 9s. Generally, the upper plate will ricochet quite a few shots, but your lower plate is really fat and easy to hit, so be careful of that because it's very easy to overexpose that. It can side scrape decently as well, which is nice, but the mobility on this tank is very bad. It is really slow and really sluggish, unless you're using the rocket boosts, of which you get 3 of them, and that gets you up to a 45 km/h top speed for about 10 seconds. In which to activate that, you press left on your D-pad. Now, I found that I actually was far more consistent with this tank with the stock gun, and I felt like the stock gun was actually nicer to use, and that's because it's got higher DPM and better accuracy generally, and that made it a lot nicer. Yeah, sure, it had lower pen on the stock AP, but if you fired the premium APCR, you'd basically go through everything you were ever going to face, which is quite nice for it. So, this first replay, we are completely stock, and that is, we've got a 30 km/h top speed, which is something that doesn't change, 12 km/h reverse speed, 600 horsepower engine, which is 11.87 horsepower per ton ratio, meaning that you are very slow and sluggish to get up to that top speed, and generally the tank is pretty damn sluggish. You've got 3 rocket boosts to use with a 4-second cooldown, between them, with a 10-second duration of that rocket boost, which means the tank does have a good set of boost to go at 45 km/h. Really helpful for crossing gaps and stuff like that when you're trying to move positions. You've got a 26.16 degree a second hull rotation speed with the build that I run, which is, again, very slow, adds to the sluggish mobility feel of the vehicle. With a 41.27 degree a second turret rotation speed, though, which means this turret does turn very, very quickly. Your terrain resistances are 2.39 on soft, 1.57 on medium, and 1.01 on firm, which aren't very good, which means that generally this tank will get held back by its ground resistances as well, which can be a bit frustrating. You've got 422 meters of view range when stock, which means this tank is blind with the build that I run, and it means you will get outspotted very, very easily, and you will struggle to spot people at decent distances in this tank, which can be really frustrating. You've got a 1.23 accuracy during rotation, which is not very good, and a 1.43 accuracy during movement, which is actually pretty decent with the full kit on the gun and the gun stabilizer, stuff like that. So accuracy during movement actually isn't too bad, but the accuracy during rotation is really poor, so it does mean the aim circle blooms out a decent amount. And you've got a 2.3 second aim time, which means that it does feel like you are taking a little while to get the gun aimed in. You do have 10 degrees of gun depression, though, which is what you're seeing here in this replay. And 10 degrees of gun depression is very un-Chinese. It's very un-Soviet-esque-like vehicle-type gun depression. 10 degrees of gun depression is lovely. It means you are very flexible on ridge lines, and that's where these vehicles want to be. They want to be getting hull down, bouncing shots off the turret, and then dishing out the damage with the main gun. You've got 0.31 accuracy on this stock gun as well, which is fairly accurate for a Tier 7 heavy tank, so we'll take it. 5.47 second reload with the build that I run, which is 2.4k DPM, which is pretty good. With 165 penetration on the standard AP, which isn't that good. But with 220 penetration on the premium APCR, that's good enough to go through most tanks you're going to face. You're only going to really struggle with some of the Tier 9 heavy tanks. And you've got 220 alpha on this 85mm gun. 792 meters a second shot velocity on the standard AP is slow, though. It is very slow, and it will feel derpy in that regard. You have to give a lot of lead to hit your shots at distance. And with a 990 meters a second shot velocity on the APCR, yeah, it's below average, but it's not horrific. But it still means you have to give a lot of lead to hit your shots with this tank at any distances. But yeah, that's the stats of the tank when you are stocking this vehicle with the build that I run. Like I say, stock, it's slow and sluggish. That's the pain of this tank when it's stocked. Slow and sluggish and fairly blind. But this stock gun is actually pretty nice in general. Although you don't really use it for that long because the top gun is actually the 3rd upgrade on this tank and it doesn't take you very long to get there. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Clutch Braking, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Advanced Loader, Gun Stabilizer, Optics. Optics to be able to try and get better view range as this tank is blind if you do not help it, and getting out spotted a lot of the time in World War II is just pure death. So getting up to 422 meters of view range, and I think it's 448 when you're fully upgraded, which is still not very good. You want to do it to try and help yourself in games. Gun stabilizer to get that better accuracy during rotation and movement, because it's atrocious if you don't help it, and that's why we run all 3 gun perks as well, to get the best accuracy and the accuracy during rotation and movement as possible as we can. The advanced load to get the best out of the DPM, and clutch braking, because the track traverse on this tank is horrible, and you want to try and get it so it can turn quicker, to try and just help the mobility feel that little bit better, right? Because otherwise, yeah, it doesn't feel great. So as you can see in this first replay, we're up to 3.2k damage with 546 assistance. We've been in a tier 8 game while we're stock, which means we've not actually done that badly. And like I say, when I was stock and using this stock gun, I was actually far more consistent with this tank than I was with the top gun. And that's because the top gun can be a little bit derpy. The DPM isn't actually very nice on that top gun. And if you struggled penetration problems with this gun, you just loaded the premium APCR and then that went away. So generally, it'll be a toss-up. Do you want the 320 Alpha of the top gun, feel a bit more heavy tanky with your Alpha? Or do you want to stick with that higher DPM, more consistent accuracy of a gun, and just keep dishing out consistently better in terms of damage output with this gun? It's down to you, really, and your comfortability. I think when I come back to playing the tank in the future, I might just run the stock gun and just be a bit more liberal with the premium rounds, right? So that I just feel more confident in hitting my shots. Because that's one thing that is a little bit frustrating with the top gun, is that sometimes it just, yeah, it likes a good miss, and you sit there going, oh, and then your DPM isn't that great either, so it takes a wee while to get it going. But let's say I played about 5, 6, or 7 games while fully stock with this gun, and then it was, what, 20k, 30k XP, and then by that time I got the top gun. And it's weird, the progression system on this tank is weird, because the top gun, the best gun on the tank, is actually only 2 or 3 upgrades in, which is usually, it's at the end of it. The top upgrade for this tank is actually the engine. But yeah, there we go. That's actually quite nice for a change, I suppose. 1831 base XP with 3,538 damage there. Pretty nice game for the tank while stock. And we're on to the second replay. And this second replay, we are now all basically nearly upgraded. And by that, I mean we've got everything but the last upgrade on the tank, because it does take a while to get to that last upgrade. And that last upgrade is an engine module, which will just help your mobility that little bit more. Does it help you top speed? No. But it does give you extra engine power, which just can mean the difference between getting to a position and not, as it is really sluggish and slow when stock. And when you're fully upgraded, it's still sluggish and slow, but a little bit better than it was. So now, with this nearly upgraded tank, we've actually got a 12.53 horsepower engine now, which, 12.53 horsepower per ton ratio engine now, because it's got up to 650 horsepower. So we do start to get up to the top speed a little bit easier. And it's a little bit more noticeable in terms of getting to that top speed on this tank. We've got better hull rotation now at 28.34 degrees a second, because we've got the top tracks. 448 meters of view range now, because we've got the top engine. 30.41 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, though. The turret rotation speed of the top turret is worse than the stock turret by quite some margin, but in that you gain a bit better armor, and you also gain the view range, which can be nice for the vehicle. You now have this top 100mm gun, which has a 1 accuracy during rotation, a flat 1, which is a lot better than the stock gun. That is a lot better than the stock gun. 1.44 accuracy during movement's the same, which is still pretty good. So generally, the gun handling's, in terms of the aim circle, it doesn't bloom out quite as much as the stock gun does. But you got 0.34 accuracy at 100 meters, which is worse. And like I say, it does feel derpy. Mr. Setter, what were you doing? Good night, Mr. Setter. But yeah, the 0.34 accuracy, it is a lot derpier on this 100mm gun, which can be a bit frustrating. And you have a 2.49 second aim time, which means your gun takes a lot longer to actually aim in as well, which again adds to the frustration of the gun, especially when missing, seeing as you do have a 9.12 second reload, which is 2.1k DPM. It's 2.5k DPM with the stock gun when you use the top turret, which is very slow. The reload is slow on this vehicle. But you do have 195 pen now on the standard AP, which is a lot better, and will help you go through pretty much most tanks you'll face, unless you're getting against the tier 9 heavies again, for which you can load 240 pen premium APCR, which, again, will go through most tanks you're going to face, which is great. And you've moved up to 320 alpha instead of 220, which obviously is nicer in those situations where you get the chance to only have one shot as opposed to two. You've also got 792 meters a second shell velocity on that standard AP, which again is still slow, with the same shell velocity on that premium APCR as the stock gun, which again is below average by about 10 meters a second. It's not horrendous, but it's also just still fairly slow. So this first game, as you can see, the second game, as you can see, we're on Kaunas, and we're just trying to keep the damage flowing with this gun. We're up to 2040 damage. We poke out a little bit too far there. I didn't expect them to be in a position to be able to shoot us, the BZs there on that corner, and sadly, the Nashorn and the BZ got a shot straight through our lower plate, and that's what I'm talking about with the lower plate of the BZ-58. It is rather large, and it sticks out very, very easily, so it's quite easy to think, oh, I'm covered, I'm safe, and then they actually have shots at that lower plate, so be very, very careful of it. We're up to 3 kills with 2.6k damage now, so get a shot into the side of that BZ-58. He misses his shot, so which means that I know I'm going to be reloaded before he will, so we're just waiting for him to give us a shot now. And because I'm a one-shot, I don't want to overexpose too soon. So we're just going to wait for him to make the mistake, which he does. We get rather fortunate that he does bounce off us there, and we finish him off. The BZ-58 is now crossing the open. I'm hoping the TD will get a shot in, which he does. Puts him down to a one-shot. We aim for the cupola on that stock turret, and we finish off the BZ-58 as well. I mean, we're shooting against them in this game. You've seen just what the armor is like with shooting against it, how easy it was to find that lower plate, and with the stock turret having that cupola, how easy it is to also get shots into that, especially if you're shooting down slightly. We're up to 5 kills with 2.8k damage, 416 assistance. The last tank on the enemy team is the Nashorn, so we put a shot through the Nashorn superstructure there, and the T-37 finishes him off. And we finish the game with 5 kills, 3.1k damage, 416 assistance, the epic victory, which is 1695 base XP. A pretty damn nice game there for the tank with the steel wool on the high caliber. But yeah, that's the tank while it's stock and nearly fully upgraded, which, like I say, the progression path on this vehicle is just a little bit odd. Like, mostly, when you're going up these tech trees, the gun is usually the very last tank, well, the very last module you unlock on the vehicle, right? But on this one, it is the third. The third thing you unlock is this gun, which means you get this gun very, very quickly. And then the top thing to unlock is the engine, which is actually quite nice. So you are more sluggish until you get fully upgraded, but you have the full fighting capacity of the top gun, which is quite good for the vehicle. And it's something that sort of, I'm not sure on the progression of the tier 9 yet, but the tier 8 only has one gun, so you're at full fighting capacity in terms of the gun straight away, which is very, very nice. It's very, very unusual in these World War II grinds that is a thing that happens. But yeah, we're into the third replay. In this third replay, we are now fully upgraded. We've got the top engine, which means our mobility is at the best it's going to be, which is 30 kilometers an hour in top speed. Like I say, it doesn't change all the way through the tank. But we have a 700 horsepower engine, which is 13.58 horsepower per ton ratio. So the horsepower per ton, compared to when stock, has gone up a lot. It means we are way more mobile than we were. But is 13.58 horsepower per ton ratio good? Not particularly. It means we will get to 30, but it just means that when you are on the move and stuff like that, you will feel sluggish. Your terrain resistances, by the way, with the fully upgraded tracks is 2.12 on soft, 1.29 on medium, and 1.01 on firm. So actually, terrain resistances now with the fully upgraded build is a lot nicer than it was when stock. So they don't quite hold you back quite as much. So here on Province, I know there's a Panzerjäger behind me. But with me and a light tank, I want to go after this T-71 CMCD, get rid of him, and then I can use what is one of the best positions on the map, which is this one directly in front of me. I knew I was going to take a hit or two from the Panzerjäger, but I just accepted it and came after the position because I wanted it. So we put a shot in there to the Panzerjäger who gets finished off, because when he pulls around that corner from up in that section, he's actually completely exposed to everybody except for me, realistically, which means that he took many hits, got set on fire, and, well, good night, Mr. Panzerjäger. We're up to 607 damage with a little bit of blocked, and we're going to try and use the position through the bushes here to try and actually spot and see the people down this 1-2 line. The problem with the BZ BZ-58, like I say though, is the fact we only have 448 meters of view range with this top turret, which means that it's a bit awkward. And we're not really going to be the ones to spot down this line. The Panther 88 that's next to me is probably the one that's going to do it. But the Panther 88 ends up shutting down the T-32 because we couldn't find a shot through his lower plate. Can't really see anyone else yet, but then we're just moving into a position to try and find a better shot. Can't pen the Chrysler K while using the standard AP, unless he gives us his side like that. If I loaded the premium APCR, I could have penned that. You've got to be careful when firing this premium APCR, though, because at distance, the penetration does drop to 213 meters of pen at 500 meters. So if you're firing across this valley, gap, area that's on province, like the 456 line, if you're shooting across this line and going straight to shoot people maybe from the position I'm at, D8, D9, my penetration will only be 213 with the premium APCR. So you've got to be careful of that, because especially the slightly more armoured tanks, you might be bouncing going, I should be penning that with 240, when in reality you actually probably only have about 213 pen. So we're up to 2.1k damage, and I'm just trying to find shots into the BZ-58. We put a shot through the side there, which tracks him and pens him. Hoping to maybe get one more shot into him, but the KV-3 drives out. So I'm going to shoot him in that rear end section in the hope, because you can see he's got a damaged fuel tank. I was hoping that shooting him in that rear section would end up setting the KV-3 on fire, because that thing likes to go up like a tinderbox every time. But sadly, it didn't happen. We're up to 2.8k damage for 319 assistance, 2 kills, and we're just going to close in to see if we can get any more damage on the KV-3 BZ-58 or the heavy tank there that's the VK-4502A. But sadly for me, the Panther 88 shuts down the 4502A, and this is where the mobility of the tank can be just a little bit frustrating, because we're just too slow. We're trying our best to keep up with the damage as their team crumbles, but yeah, we just couldn't do it. So we see one tank's left. It's the 112. And my thought with the 112 was maybe he's in the corner behind the rocks and he's just hiding. Because there's, you know, the amount of times where we've gone, where's the last guy? We've got guys over at H7, so I'm thinking, I don't know, is he in that corner? I'm not 100% sure. You know what? The Panther 88 never cleared it out. I'm just going to go behind the rocket K2 and make sure that he isn't just cowering behind that rock. Because, like I said, the amount of times you play Province and there is someone just sitting behind this rock where they cannot get spotted unless you go round it is always a thing. But there we go. The person who pinged it was right. They are in that corner at J9. So we're just going to load premium because it is a 112. And if we got the side of a 112, we could pen it with 195 penetration. But at this distance especially, we're not going to pen it with the AP. And even at this distance with the APCR, it's going to be a bit of a troll tank to pen, because the lower plate is very, very good. We realistically want the flat side, or we want the cupola on top. But with our derpy gun accuracy at this distance, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a troublesome shot. So we go for that cupola, but it just dips extremely low and hits the rock face in front of him. We boost the reload with food, moving a little bit closer to try and get that render range. He's closing in. We hit the lower plate there and actually bounce, because we just don't have the penetration for it. He gets tracked. I was thinking maybe I'd track and pen him there at that angle, but sadly we end up capping, so we don't get any more damage on that 112. But we did finish with the victory. 2 kills, 2.8k damage, 1442 base XP. Pretty average game there for the tank while fully upgraded against tier 8s on Province. And again, it shows you the mobility, how it's slow and sluggish when you are not using the rocket boosters, and it can just be a bit of a pain with how slow it is. But the rocket boosters can be pretty handy for when you've got to cross gaps, like the one at the start on Province there, and like getting up the hill, where we got the hill way, way quicker because we were doing 40 kilometers an hour up a hill with the rocket boosters, which is very nice for the tank. Very nice generally for the line when it can use it. So we're on to the fourth and final replay here of the BZ-58, and we're on to this map, which is Wipeout, Mr. Nostalgia map itself. We've got the shot into the side of the ISU-152, and we put the shot in. Now, this is a very good position to take in any tank that's got gun depression, because you can shoot under that train car, get very awkward shots at the people that go across the 1-2 line. You can disrupt anyone like the Barask that's currently sitting at E4, and just cover that entire ridge line really easily and not overexpose too hard. The problem with the BZ-58 is a problem that a few tanks have, and that is that this tank is central mounted, which means that when you're trying to get the gun depression on this little ridge, sometimes it's, well, I say sometimes, it is very easy to overexpose the lower plate, because you really have to go up on top of the ridge line a little bit to get the best out of the gun depression. And there's a lot of times they will see the lower plate where you think, oh, I thought I was hull down, but no, it's because the tank has that central mounted turret. So you just got to be careful when going over ridge lines that you're not overdoing it. And we are going to overdo it a little bit in this game, but we're just going to be pushing to try and see if we can find shots where we can. So we get shot under the train car there by what I think was the Comet. That's really unfortunate that guy hit that shot, because it's really difficult hitting shots underneath the train carriages, because the amount of times RNG just goes, ha, lol, and just destroys the train carriage as opposed to shooting the thing you were shooting at is, yeah, frustrating. So we get a shot into the BZ-58 to shut him down. The Rhino's making the same mistake, so we put a shot into the side of the Rhino for 332, and that's where this gun is obviously nicer than the stock gun, because we hit him for 322 there, as opposed to maybe hitting him for 200 or 220. You know, that's where this gun is always nice, because you've got that more tier 7 heavy tanky alpha, because 320 is probably the more average alpha at tier 7. So we're going for the next shot into the brass gear. We put a shot in for 316, low roll, which means he sadly doesn't get finished off. It would have been nice to get rid of that guy if we could, but we're going to poke over, see if we've got shots into the BZ-58. Lower plate shot there, but sadly the gun derps. It goes high. Instead of hitting the fat lower plate, we hit the upper plate, which we ricochet off. We're just being careful of what is going off behind us with the medium tank and the other BZ-58, because we don't want to start getting shot in the side there from those guys. And we're just watching to see what they do in terms of advancing. So what I'm going to do is move into a better position to get shots at this guy, because if we can clear this side, then I can just truly worry about the other side. We put a shot into the side there with quite a nice shot into the BZ-58. Hoping he maybe drives into a position we can get another shot into him. But he's pulled back safe, so we're not getting a shot in. And we're noticing that they are pushing aggressively down the one line. So that means they're going to be giving us some nice shots in the side. So we're looking for the shot into the IC-152. Can't find it. We do get a shot into the BZ-58, and the brass gets a shot in that tracks us, and the BZ-58 bounces. Now, I was thinking, oh, I was going to get easy shots because they're going to be preoccupied with the other guys, right? No, they were staring at me, waiting. We're up to 2.5k damage. The BZ-58 puts a shot into our lower plate, but we did get a shot into his other BZ-58 friend as he was driving forward. We get a shot in that tracks and pens the BZ-58 there because he was just a bit over-angled. Just trying to find a better position to get the gun depression. Oh, snap the shot at the BZ-58 going over the ridge with the rocket boosters. Sadly, it doesn't go in. We should have gone for the other BZ-58. Can't quite find the shot into the T-28 Prot as he crosses, but we get the kill there on the A-44. And at this point, I'm looking at this going, this isn't good. This isn't good. They've got to cross the gap. They're onto our side of the map, which means my position is going to get very, very awkward. So we load the APCR so that we can go through something like the T-28 Prot if we want to go through his turret front. And it'll also make it easier to defend this position if we need to. So we're going to move closer to the train car in front of us. Try and get the shot into the BZ-58, but just bad timing there. Didn't quite get the shot in to shut him down, which is going to be bad times for us. Foreshadowing. We put the shot into the lower plate of the IC-152, get that big gun out of the game. T-28 Prot drives around the corner that we've spotted. He gets shot again. Oh, he's lost pretty much all of his hit points. Hopefully finish him off, and there we go. We actually bounced the other BZ-58 from the back, and we actually can't see him. We just can't spot him, which is really awkward. So I'm trying to see if I can spot him if he fires. He fires APCR, and he actually hit the lower plate there, which puts us down to 365 hit points. Which just makes this whole thing awkward. I know where he is. He's somewhere in those windows, but I just can't see him because my view range is poor. So I pinged the position where he is at B4 for the 112. I'm really hoping the 112 will go spot him. He does, but as soon as the BZ-58 gets spotted, he pulls back. I noticed the other BZ-58 on our left, so what I'm going to do is come over the top of the ridge and try and get a cheeky shot into him, hoping that I maybe bounce him on top of the ridge. We put a shot in, but sadly he tracks and pens us as well, which is really awkward. I'm being careful of the BZ, but I'm hoping he's cowering now from the 112. He's not poking out to give me a shot, though, and I can't ignore the other BZ-58, who is going to poke over to try and get a shot into us. So I aim for his turret ring here with the APCR in. The shot goes through the turret ring, because you've got to be careful of your turret ring getting penned in this vehicle. But unfortunately for us, the other BZ shuts us down. And sadly, that ended up with a close defeat for us, and we finished the game with the 5 kills, third on the MVP screen on a loss, 5 kills, 3.9k damage nearly, ace tanker, the high caliber, 1337 base XP, a pretty good game there on a loss for the BZ-58, but again it showed the capacity of it, the little bit of awkwardness with the turret on, well, with the hull down capacity of it, where you think you're safe and you're not because the lower plate's fat, but generally the gun's pretty good, in general it's a pretty nice tank. So as always everybody, thank you very much for watching, I'll see you next time.
A great success!